Previously on
All right,
Ballz.
so we've got the topics here.
Yes, we do. So the 4 topics are...
You're going to have to orchestrate this, bud, because
No, you know how this works, man. You listen to the show.
yeah, often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's very simple. It's very simple. Usually, we go through all the topics and then end up talking about Tank's Landings one, which is usually rugby. But I think this week, it's different. Because this week, we have a different winner, and it's not rugby. So, the 4 topics put to us were, are sporting role models a dying breed? Whose topic was that?
Yeah, that was mine, eh?
Okay. What was your sporting highlight of winter?
Oh, what a topic. Wow.
Who came up with that one?
That's the Bounce.
Oh, well done, Bounce.
That got 14% of the vote. Bounce, you'll be pleased to know.
I'm happy that I come last with it. It shows that I'm a niche somewhere out there.
The Kopinski family obviously voted well, eh?
Yeah, 14% of 7 listeners is not good, boo. Shut up, Johnny. Okay. Bark Rugby, proof of a lack of evolution or a bastion of the power game?
Oh.
No surprises there. 35% of the vote that one got. And when is it time to start panicking about Heineken Meyer?
That was me, and that was written. I chose that topic on a very painful Monday morning, as I'm sure the rest of us were.
Yes.
I would have phrased that, if I was a little calmer, I would have phrased that when's the time to judge Heineken Meyer correctly, because there was a lot of panic around last week's performance. So I just want to clear that up with everyone. That was my sense of feeling, but
Okay. It's clear now.
Sure, it's a bit pessimistic, yeah? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a serious backtrack if I've ever heard one. Eh?
Well, I'm pleased to tell you, Sean, that also got 14% of the
and
vote.
I'm glad it did. I'm very glad it did.
So the winner is, are we the bastion of going backwards? No, what is the winner?
The winning topic today is the one you wanted.
Oh, the one I wanted. Yes.
Are sporting role models a dying breed?
Ah, okay.
What a topic. Great. Yeah, very nice. Well done, Billy.
Was that Billy's?
Yeah, that's me, eh?
Well done, Sport Billy. World class.
Now, the way Darren usually does it
Yes.
is usually the bloggers can go around and we quickly chat about the other topics that didn't win,
Okay.
and then we get onto the serious topic.
Well, that's the way Darren would do it. The way we're going to do it this afternoon is John is now going to interview each of you. And from there we'll decide who's going to blog about the worst interview ever. Okay, no. All right, so let's go with that. So, Sport Billy, that's your topic. So you give us your 4.5 cents.
Now that's
I'll go last. I think
Okay.
we get the guys that get the losing bonus point go first. Eh?
All right, Sean, you go first.
Guys, I just want to point out, I can't hear Billy. I don't normally complain about that, but I can't hear him at all.
Okay, now can you hear him now? Speak to us, Billy.
Yeah. Have you got me there, Ben?
Have you got him?
I heard Ben's really awesome. That was a real thing, or?
Okay, let's go. Sean, we'll figure out how to get Billy to hear Sean. I mean, Ben, something like that. It's all technical.
So, if you folks want to know about, apart from what I said earlier about what we think about Heineken Meyer and when we should judge him, etc., I think if you folks will read my work, you'll know that I said, like, please, it's not time to panic. Let's see what is happening. Of course, that result hurt everyone on the weekend. I think it's fair to say. And yeah, essentially that. I would say if we have more time, maybe I would say like into let's say the Tri-Nations, the artist formerly known as the Tri-Nations.
Yeah.
Let's wait about that time of year before we get a chance to see Heineken Meyer working with everyone that he wants to, and then let's see the story from there, in a nutshell.
cool.
Yeah.
Anyone? Should we comment on that?
John, would you like to comment on that?
Well, I know that in the past, we kind of, when things go wrong, everybody throws the toys out the cot and we get worried. Now, if we were to beat Australia and the All Blacks, I mean, will this all be forgotten? Will they suddenly think that maybe he's changed a few things quite rapidly because the general feeling is that he needs to, adopt a new game plan?
Well, I think we all remember the 49-0 against Australia. It was probably a comparable result in terms of performance. I'm not looking at the result, I'm pretty much looking at the performance that we're looking at and how we felt as a nation about it. So I mean, there was a whole bunch of knives that came out at that point, and a whole bunch of things were written by Jake White fans that they probably regretted it afterwards a year later. So there's definitely more time to turn things around, and he's a rugby man. This is a rugby problem. So sort it out.
People keep saying he's a rugby man, but he's not showing. I mean, like, other than the fact he likes rugby, I'm not seeing any sort of dynamism here to suggest he's a rugby man.
But that's the whole thing that we've been saying this week, though, is that when Heineke Meyer was appointed to coach the Springboks, we knew what we were getting.
Absolutely.
We knew what brand of rugby would be playing. The fact that it's not working now is causing everyone to panic. If it was working, everyone would be fine with it.
I think that's the thing. If you play with that kind of style and it doesn't work, it's not. The public just see. They don't even get that feeling that we went down swinging. They just. It just seems unimaginative and it's frustrating.
Yeah.
So he doesn't protect himself with the brand of rugby that he's purported that we are going to play when we do lose or draw. But that's the story.
Has his game plan?
Right.
Has his game plan been sussed out?
I think it always was, and I think he's always been unapologetic about it. Really, he said this is the way we're going to play, and this is what we do. The opposition know what's coming. Whether they can stop it or not is a different story. It sounds very familiar to a coach previously. It sounds very sort of to Peter de Villiers' way of doing it. But he always said, don't judge the game plan, judge the execution of it.
Don't judge
and
a snail by its
execution
cover.
of
Yeah,
it.
that's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's nothing different. Like everyone's moaning that Heineke's game plan's terrible, but the Bok game plan's been this for years.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I don't think there's any difference, no matter which coach it's been. We've played a specific brand of South African rugby, and perhaps now, are we getting caught out? We know that the Argentinians play also a specific style of rugby, a very spoiling game, and if you don't really understand it, you could get caught out short, which we saw over the past weekend. But are we now being caught short for the years and years of playing this specific style of rugby?
Yeah, I think. I listened to an interview with John Smith that Darren did, after the game this week, and he was quite honest about it. And he said, "Listen, the Boks, we've never been good at kind of putting sides away, and I think that's that's fairly obvious. It's not often the Boks go and give someone 60 plus points. It happens once in a while."
Well, when Carl Duplessis is the coach, look what happened to him.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I mean. Like we don't play like the All Blacks, and I think I'm not suggesting that we have to, but we've been playing this way for so long. Everyone knows when they're going to play against us exactly how to counter what we're going to do. It's like we go out there and try and bully them, and if you manage to sort of face up to the bully and get on top of him, we're always going to be in trouble because we don't have a plan B. I think rugby is moving on that. The All Blacks are leading the way. I mean, their brand is fantastic. Their results are incredible. And, if we want to play second fiddle and we're content with, being number 2 in the world, I think we can carry on doing what we do. But I think if we want to be consistently beating the All Blacks, I think we've got to rethink things.
I don't think one criticism. I don't think we should just be concerned the fact that it's conservative is the one fair point. It's not just. We mustn't make it just a debate of like conservative rugby versus expansive. I think it's too simplistic. As you said, the way Argentina played on the weekend, that was pretty. That was pretty conservative, and it was way more effective. Imagine if we used those little tweaks to a conservative game plan in our play with our players. The results could be way different. I'm not saying that we're going to pace the All Blacks. I'm just saying you could well see a vast improvement using a conservative style.
But that's exactly it. And I don't know, I can't remember whether it was Dan Retief or Nas Buerta that said, you look at a Brian Abana, you look at a Jean de Villiers. These guys are highly, highly talented players, and they have the skills. It's not like South African rugby players do not have the skills. It's just the game plan that we implement doesn't allow them to display those skills.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's it. There were calls during the week about calling up Jan Serfontein and Francois Venter and guys like this, these youngsters that play in the centre for the Bulls and for the under-20s. And I don't see what that's going to... Like old Mallet said, it doesn't matter who you've got. If you're telling the guys, this is the plan, they're going to stick to it. That's they're there to please their coach. If they don't, they're out of there. You just got to look at poor old Keegan Daniel.
Yeah, shame.
I think it's a tough one. Everyone expects Heineke Meyer I suppose with the success that he had in the past, everyone has expected him to just come in there and all of a sudden from day one come out and firing on all cylinders. But it took him years and years to nurture that Bulls side to get to where it was. Unfortunately, you don't have that kind of luxury when you're a Springbok coach, because people will immediately attack you, as we've seen over this past weekend. But he's more than likely going to have to make some crucial decisions and stick with them in order to get some kind of cohesive way of the team to play.
Yeah, but does that make him a role model? We're never going to talk about the subject, are we?
No, we will.
Yeah.
We will.
Okay,
We've
yeah.
exhausted this one.
I think
which
it's
I think
exhausted.
is exhausted.
It is. It's extremely tired. Yeah.
Perhaps you could just touch on quickly what was your sporting highlight of winter?
Sure, Simon. There were so many. There was so many. I thought it'd be a really good topic for blogs.
Yeah, it is a nice one. I'd have to go. My one would be the Open.
Yeah, there was definitely the Open. There was the Stormers finishing top of the log.
Yeah, that was very good. Yeah, well played.
No longer.
That was great.
And also, you're obviously part of the Olympics. The Olympics was part of the winter. It was like a real charm sort of 4-week period for South African sport. Hash got the 100, like really pasting the English. There's some other stuff in there. I think I won a couple of personal golf games as well. But yeah, I thought it was quite a broad topic there.
I want special mention to go to Wimbledon as well. I would like Roger Federer's win was a big one for me.
Phenomenal.
I am a big Roger Federer fan, but I'm an even bigger anyone but Murray fan.
Yeah. But shame.
Experience
Shame, I
that.
must say though, I mean, I think Andy Murray will look back on 2012 as the year that he won some fans. He didn't win
Absolutely.
Wimbledon, but he won a lot of fans.
Absolutely, and the way
And a gold medal.
and
He
a gold
won
medal.
the Olympic.
Sure.
Yeah. My favorite winter. Yeah.
Come bring
It's
some
gotta-
Formula One into it.
No, because we had the summer break, buddy. We like normal people. We have a holiday. We're not stupid. But it's got to be. Unfortunately, the choking of Adam Scott and the victory for Ernie Els. I tell you, I just did somersaults. To me, it's just, he may not be Mr. Player, but it's Ernie one else. Legend.
And it was such a great moment as well because the first test was going on at the same time, so you could just pan away from wickets falling to see Adam Scott fall away and Ernie Els come through. Oh, that was just a wonderful Sunday.
Yeah, that was a great weekend. It really was just so special.
Okay.
All right. So now,
Topic at hand. With
I like
30
this
at hand.
topic. I like this topic.
Are sporting
I mean-
role models a dying breed?
Yes.
I mean,
Next.
this is something. Basically, what got me thinking along these lines is the sort of the collapse of the Armstrong Empire over the last 10 days or so. But yeah, I started thinking, are these guys, we put them on such a pedestal, and I mean, you just got to look at the sort of fall of Tiger and Armstrong and I suppose or Hansie himself as three of the sort of stories of how these guys have fallen off their perches, as it were. But the sort of angle that I want to look at is, with the sort of professional era, our sports stars are becoming so sanitized. I mean, you just have to listen to a post-match interview, and it's the same tripe dished up every Saturday.
Well, they should get Johnny to do them from now on.
But that's exactly with that, I believe a lot of that is the media is to blame for that,
Absolutely.
because the questions, they're not asking the right questions.
No, for sure, but it's also it's also the way the players are trained by their agents or their media liaison
problem.
people, whoever. I mean, you actually never get an answer to a question. Even if you ask a question, you don't get an answer.
And you certainly get zero
and I do
personality
agree
as
with you. I
well.
think some of the questions are absolute rubbish.
Johnny, take
but I
notes,
mean,
yeah?
you might as well take away those post-match interviews. I mean, I wrote a blog probably about 6 or 8 months ago where I sort of typed one up and said, why don't we just use this for every single one, because it's always the same stuff,
Mention the
Credit to other
sponsor.
team.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks to the sponsor. Obviously, thank the big guy upstairs and move on. But
really
I think
chuffed the
the
guys get
agents and
100%, yeah.
this is the reality of professionalism, I guess. But I think a lot of our sports stars have become so sanitized that we think these guys are, but they're not normal guys anymore. But actually, they are. Off screen, they're actually normal guys, and they've got failings like all of us, I guess.
Yeah, but Billy, again, like I bring it back to the media. We spoke to Jake White this afternoon, and the first thing that he said to us was, I think I've been misquoted. I say one thing, and it gets written up in reports, and it's splashed on the front pages of newspapers, and everything that I say gets taken out of context, which is probably why these Oaks don't want to say anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, there's some dreadful journalists out there. Let's not let's not beat around the bush there. I mean, there's some quality ones as well, but there are some real bottom feeders that, you know, they want to get the article on the front page, and the easiest way is, I mean, the Bob Skinstad quote was was going on all morning on Twitter, debates about that, you know, about him supposedly calling Heineke a dictator, which which Bob said was absolute rubbish in slightly stronger words. But I mean, these guys, we baying out for an opinion from guys like Bob and Jake, and then as soon as they kind of give a mild opinion, I agree with you, Simon. You get these journalists that misquote the guys and sort of vilify them for actually expressing opinion. I mean, we debated this before on blogs. We want an opinion. We you know, that's what makes it interesting. That's what made Nick Mallett's post-match comment so interesting, because he gave us an opinion.
But yeah, I totally agree. I'm going to come in there and saying there's this local blogger called Tank Lanning who on Twitter today said that Jake White was putting the knife in yesterday by suggesting things. Now, if we are so taken away from the truth that an opinion is seen as putting the knife in, then I think we're in a bad state of affairs. You know, I'm not just singling out Mr. Lanning, of course.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I think this is an inherent problem that I think we've always had in South Africa. It's always play Mr. Nice Guy, no matter, you know, how badly we've done. Always try and find a positive, which I think in its own way is not a bad thing to do. One must try and give merit there. But honesty, I think, is sometimes it's armchair critics. It's a lot of fans who sit in there and seeing the bigger game, and yet they're reading the paper and they're going, well, that's not really the game that I saw yesterday. And we're pussyfooting around the unions, otherwise we won't get an air flight to go to the next game or the next test. And it's time that people actually stood up for it and moved on and got a little bit harder and harsher towards the people who are representing us worldwide. The professional level of sport has changed so much over the last 20 years. So many people have profited it, and a lot of average kind of sports people have become very, very wealthy through their ability of marketing themselves. But they also got to be able to face the knife if it does come through.
See, this is exactly why Mr. Gary Player is probably the biggest role model of all, because he was the guy that said like golfers are taking performance-enhancing drugs, or they're taking marijuana, and then he said, you know, the courses with this and the clubs with that. And he was the guy that wasn't looking for invites and stuff. He was really putting it out there.
Yeah, but he also just had one little luxury, and that is that he had enough money that he could fly himself anywhere to and from. Whereas the average journalist sits there and goes, well, I do need the ticket to go to New Zealand for the test matches.
So actually, you might not know this, but Gary actually grew up poor. He was the youngest of 5 kids.
Slept in a bunker.
I might have read a story or 17,000, yeah.
I'm sure there's one out there. You might find it at some stage.
I'm going to the Sport Billy blog site. I'm sure there's something there.
But Johnny, do you think sporting role models are a dying breed?
I certainly do, but there's a point that I want to bring up, and you know, if it's unrelated, just please say so. But
it's unrelated, Johnny.
Okay.
I know when you say it's going to be unrelated, it's going to be unrelated.
But I'm fascinated by what everybody's talking about in terms of the questions that you ask these particular role models. And I'm sure many of us have actually been subject to a situation where they actually ask you before the interview, what questions are you going to ask? Do you kind of perceive that as being a reason that they've got something to hide?
No.
John, are you referring to the time when Gary Player asked Martin Locke to ask him how many holes in one he had?
Yes, Ben. Yes, exactly. You're spot on.
Just put that into YouTube and enjoy the next 5 minutes.
I love it. But anyway, I just wanted to make that point because I think there's a big niche for celebrity mentorship or role model mentorship. I think that's what really is needed, because half of these people who get themselves into trouble just haven't got anyone ready to help them and to guide them.
Well, John, I think another thing here is working out what is a role model. I mean, some people look at someone like Roger Federer, he's a role model because he cries and he thanks everyone, he seems really nice, he's got a middle parting.
Yes.
But like someone for me, like David Beckham to me is a role model. There's a guy with nothing. I mean, he can barely talk. You know, obviously, he's a good-looking guy and stuff. But like, look what he's turned around in his life from very limited means. He's gone out and he's created so much with his life.
Yeah, many would say the same about you, Ben.
Simon.
All right, guys, listen, hold on the blogs here. It's just gone Thursday afternoon. Of course, we're doing blogs, and the winning topic for this afternoon is our sports heroes or sports role models sort of fading away. Is there an element of concern? I think the biggest thing is that younger kids are the ones who get influenced by those who are achieving, and because we have so much available in terms of television, you got a young kid who's sitting there and watching a cricket match, and we can take the Hansie story as a prime example. You know, these kids grow up, they want to play for South Africa, for the Proteas, they want to be the captain, and the next minute their hero is unfortunately involved in a massive scandal. So I mean, you know, do parents have to now sit there and say to kids, don't believe everything you see? I mean, that's bursting the bubble as well.
I think, Sash, I mean, one of the things is that we need to separate out. And I mean, I've got two little boys, and luckily they're a bit young at the moment. But I mean, these are things as parents that you do have to look out for. We need to separate the sports star, you know, the guy on the field who might be an incredible rugby player or an incredible Formula One driver or an incredible cricket player. The guy off the field is a lot different to that, and I don't think we can want to play rugby like Francois Hougaard, but I don't necessarily want to be like him. You know, I'm not keen on a mullet. I'm not keen on tats.
No, I think you're right. I think you're 100% right. We were chatting beforehand, a couple of hours before blogs, and remember, you asked me, you said, after the year 2000, try and put a list together of 10 people that you would classify as a role model. And
can I also say quickly that after the year 2000, we were no longer teenagers and stuff like that, Simon. Like, it's also
Simon
we all grow.
I'm 19 right today.
So. sorry for the interruption.
Okay, can I carry on?
Yeah, carry on.
Anytime you're ready, Ben.
Okay, yeah, sorry. But before that, like Sasha was saying, Bjorn Borg was his role model, but like back then, Sasha was probably young as well. So, you know, it's all relative if we look at these things.
No, but exactly. But don't forget, you know, I was a massive fan of Bjorn Borg, but then if you look at Bjorn Borg's career, I mean, he blew everything up his nose. He nearly committed suicide. But those things weren't in the public eye as much. Nowadays, everything's in the public eye. A guy, you know, freaking nowadays with slow-mo television, a cricket player sits there, he can't even, you know, touch any part of his face without somebody playing a replay of it. I mean, these guys are scrutinized for every single thing that they do. So I do feel sympathy for them on the one side, but on the other side, that's their choice. They've also got to understand that their choice, they've got to be able to stand up and be man about what they're doing.
But if that's the case as well, like if we're saying that a role model is who's appealing to kids as well, I mean, you bring up that like people a little older than us will look at, giving away my age here, will look at Bjorn Borg as a role model. I don't remember him at all. What I saw of him, I thought he was great. And when I was younger,
he's not the guy from ABBA, huh?
No, yeah, his brother.
I mean,
Money.
We all get a bit jaded, and sport all becomes our lives. We have some disappointing stories along the way. People get found out in scandals. People lose form. People do horrible things. But are we not overemphasizing or underemphasizing how kids still look at these guys, where they're still treated as role models? You know, like if you look at the South African cricket team now, would a 12-year-old, 11-year-old not look at some players in the same way that we did when we were that age? I mean, like, do they not worship guys like Hashim Amla the way that we did, or Jacques Callis?
Jonty Rhodes in his day.
Absolutely. Like,
well, I idolized Jonty Rhodes.
Yes.
Yeah, and so how different would looking at Hashim Amla be when you're that age to looking at Jonty now?
But aren't we spoiled for choice?
Oh, absolutely.
This is
good point.
I think this is also where the thing is, where certain problems come up, because you grow up and you sit there and think, gee, Jonty Rhodes, the greatest guy, this is unbelievable. Then 2 seasons later, now you're following it's Herschel Gibbs. who's doing what Jonty did, and then it's somebody else. We spoil for choice. So all of a sudden, our memories get shorter.
That's definitely true, and the amount of sport that we get, modern fixture lists is going nuts as well. I also think money has just had a lot to do with how people have shown themselves to be, you could argue, more human or more evil the way they've reacted to it. If you look at a sport like football, I don't want kids of mine watching like high class like European football these days, looking for role models. I mean, you just can't take the diving and stuff. I mean, it makes me want to cry when I see 12-year-olds dive on the football field when they're playing competitive stuff.
It's a very good point.
And that's all a money-related thing. That's money and far too much, as you say.
The greatest role model in the history of sport, Bernie Eccleston. That's it. There we go.
Bernie Eccleston.
That's
Shenanigans aside.
Max Mosley.
No, that's shenanigans, yes.
Bernie Eccleston. You can't fault the guy.
I see the Gary Player fan club start some competition this week.
on the grounds that he's just run a perfectly run sport. There we
Shut
go.
up, Sasha.
It's really a sport, Sasha. It's a marketing exercise with girls in the pits. Come on.
Exactly.
Girls in their what?
Girls in the pits, not.
Okay.
All I can say, 16 hours, 23 minutes till free practice.
Oh, it's the pits.
Perhaps this is a question we should have asked at the beginning, though. And Billy, you can maybe answer this. Is
Is for an actual sport?
No.
Careful, I'm the one who can turn everything off here. Huh?
Is how are we defining a role model? Is the way they conduct on the field and off the field, or the way they play the game?
I think I think the guys that get put up as role models, and this is where it, there is that line where you need to be careful. Is often it's guys that can play the game well, and it's not necessarily the guys that play the game fair. I mean, I'm sure you get little rugrats running around wanting to be Suarez in Uruguay, but it's and this is where I think it's the guys that play the game fair and play the game, obviously they wouldn't be on the international stage if they weren't playing at a decent level, but we should be concentrating on the guys that play the game in the right way rather than the guys that are good at the game. And obviously there's some that can do both. You look at a guy like Hashim Amla as a prime example. But where people continue to the fans keep falling on their faces because we don't know what these guys are like off the field. I mean, we get the sort of, as I say, the sanitized version of the guys. We made to believe that they are heroes and are amazing, and we watch slow-mo replays of how fantastic they are. But we don't know what they're getting up to off the field, and suddenly an off-the-field story comes about, and then everyone is up in arms saying, "Oh my God, they can't believe Hansi was a match fixer." Or
Tiger.
Or Tiger. Yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of people would want to be Tiger for what he's been up to.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. I mean, we don't know what the media portrays these guys, and obviously their agents, as being ultimate role models and fantastic guys. Like, I don't know any of the Springboks. I can't tell you if they're decent guys or not. And any of you guys that might have met the guys, it's a totally sanitized environment. I mean, take the guy out for a few beers, get him a bit messy, and then I'll tell you if he's a good back or not. But I'm certainly not going to make any of them my role model.
But yeah, I think you make a great point there. Something that I'm lucky enough to go to quite a few of these sort of press events and go to places where these guys hang out. And like I actually make a point of I make a point of not actually talking to them, because it's such a letdown. I mean, no disrespect to any of them as people, of course, because as sports stars we actually shouldn't have to care what they are like as people. I hate nothing more than people from Pretoria who say Scott Burger's not intelligent. I mean, that's kind of like saying, well, my lap dancer is a communist. It doesn't make a big difference. So like it's something that we shouldn't draw too much into.
And I think Kiev communist. Okay. If you're from Kiev.
No, I think drawing into that is quite tough, and I think if you want to build a role model status in the fact that this bloke's nice with the press, or he's talkative to everyone who comes up to him and goes, "Oh, how's it, but can I get an autograph?" I don't think that's role model either. I think role models should be seen on achievements and how they conduct themselves amongst these achievements in our eye as sportsmen.
You know what?
You know what's kind of scary is when you see a well-known cricketer, for example, signing signatures at the end of a match, and he eventually has to get to a stage where he has to say, "I'm out of here now. I've got to go."
No more.
And that,
Leave me alone.
and that last person who doesn't get a signature will say, "What a lousy shit that person is."
And you'll do it for 15 years.
Yes,
as well.
that's correct.
Well, you know, my final point on this is that I do think that kids, and no matter kids and adults, do still need role models. I mean, I love watching Federer, and I'm with you on this, Sean. I mean, the way that he played in Wimbledon, to me, I just sat there and went, wow, this is a role model, a champion of the world, somebody I think is really admirable in what he does. We do need to have role models, but I think it's also the onus on the person to have the intelligence not to judge that person. And we all judge, and I think that is where unfortunately we find ourselves in a problem. We're now judging that person because we expect them to be something or somebody else, and yet if they don't live up to our expectation, then we sit there and think they're a bunch of idiots.
It comes to as well, we don't judge them solely on how disciplined or excellent they are in their craft. Is the thing, which is exactly the only criteria we should use.
We should
for
be,
these people,
yes.
You know, well, certainly the most important by far. Maybe not the only one. You know, there's some conduct that a guy has that can make the role model go. But if you want a sportsman as a role model, that has to be the stress in like the high 90 percentages. You know.
Yeah, completely.
There we go. That's my 5 cents.
I say let's go back to the days of the amateur era. Let's go back to the Wanderers Club and look at Sid Nomis and Hugh Bladen at the bar after a game. You know, these guys, you know, there was
That's what you do every Friday.
there was no money.
Correct.
You know,
No money,
there was no
that's-
money. These Oaks played for the love of the game, but they played it in the correct spirit. And that's, I believe, you know, they were...
I think, sorry, but seriously, I mean, you look at Ernie Els, and you know, I think what's won Ernie so many fans, and a mate of mine was telling me this weekend, he was at the British Open watching Ernie in that final round, and he said you had, you know, guys, who was he paired with again?
I can't remember.
It was Zach Johnson or someone, wasn't it?
yes, Zach Johnson, yes.
Yeah, he had, you know, Americans shouting for Ernie, you know, over Zach Johnson. And I mean, Ernie's popularity is fantastic. And I think the reason is because Ernie just comes across as an everyday guy. You know what I mean? And he's, yeah, everyone mocks him about being a bit fond of a few beers, but you know, who cares? The guy's he just looks like a good oak, you know.
I think it's
mean,
the element of humility. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I mean? And for me, those are the kind of guys. Listen, I mean, I'd love to meet Ernie, and I've heard some great stories about him, and it sounds like he is that kind of guy, you know. And you know, it's so much better than these sort of fake personalities that a lot of
Yes, Simon.
guys portray. Yeah, guys like Simon Hill.
Oh,
I mean,
stop.
who is the real Simon Hill?
This is him. This is him. This is him.
All right, guys. I think we're going to wrap up blogs for this afternoon. So final comments. Sean, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate that I think the way we perceive role models is changing. I think the way they pop out of the woodwork is becoming less and less with the amount that we see, the amount of money that they earn, etc. But they do still exist, and role models are more important to kids. And if I don't know, I'm not the type to give parental tips or anything, but if you're looking at your child watching the sport, just big up some characters that you think are worth following, and just try to, as simple as that. The kid's dream is as much as any influence the athlete can ever have in his life.
Yeah.
And you can just keep it there. And I think we can get jaded about role models, but I don't think they're dead, and I still think they have a massive purpose in sport.
Nice one, Ben.
Sash, I'd like to say you were a very good host today. That was pretty much it, really.
Oh wow, thanks,
There
brother.
we go.
Thanks.
Oh, look, you had a bit of a wobbly moment with your F1 stuff, but other than that,
It's all going downhill with the Bernie
I'm
Ecclestone
going to
stuff.
work.
We
I'm going to
thought
work
about
on that. I'm going to work on that. Sport Billy, what do you got to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've pretty much covered it. But I mean, yeah, there are. Listen, as I say, I think the amateur area, yeah, there were some fantastic role models around, and I think we had more access to this sort of real side of them. I think, but these days, you know, if you scratch around, you'll find some pretty decent role models. But you know, like I say, whether you actually want to put them up on that pedestal is the big question, because you know, the higher you put them up, the more they've got to fall.
I think you hit the nail on the head there with the word scratch. You got to scratch around. They don't just jump to mind.
Yeah, John, you got anything else to say?
Yeah, no.
All right, that'll do.
I believe that.
Thank
yes.
you, John.
No. Carry on, John. Yeah, what are you?
No,
gonna
no.
say?
I do believe and concur. They are a dying breed. Sport role models, dying breed.
Who is your role model, Johnny?
Arnold Geertz.
No, definitely not. I'll be very honest with you. During at '95 World Cup, it was definitely Francois Pienaar.
And your
was a
broadcasting role model, who did you model yourself on?
Broadcasting role. You really want me to
Got
go
it,
back
Arnie.
along? John
Come on.
Burks. I thought John Burks. was
Murray
so good.
Walker.
And Murray Walker. You would Formula One, yes.
Yeah.
I enjoyed John Burks. I thought he was very good.
All right.
Long John Burks.
Stan Katz. Oh, those guys.
Hi, this is Dan Katz. All right, guys, listen, great to be part of Blogs. I hope it didn't cock it up too much for you guys, but look forward to next week's one. So keep it.
2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mondays to Fridays live on balls.co.za. Balls.co.za.